Okay, everyone, good afternoon. This is Brandy coming from you from my house and welcoming you to joining our Spring to Action nonprofit online gathering. Just a few housekeeping items before we begin. I'd like to make sure everyone keeps yourself muted. We are going to have an opportunity to hear from you shortly. And we also will be recording this call, and the video and PowerPoint slides will be shared with you afterwards. So again, welcome. It is good to be together, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandy, and I'm the Chief Program Officer at ACT for Alexandria. I'm also going to be joined today by Celeste Flores, who is our Spring to Action Project Manager, and then also members of the ACT team. Today, we're going to talk about Spring to Action, potential modifications we're considering as we respond to the COVID-19 crisis and needs around our community, ideas you may want to incorporate into your campaign, and the bulk of our time together will be for questions and discussion. Okay. So, as you know, we are in a time of great uncertainty, but we are certain that you, our nonprofits, are key to our community, and the work that you do is vital to the health and thriving of Alexandria. We also know that things are rapidly changing around us, but we are in this together and we are better together. This is part of the spirit and success of Spring to Action, how we all, whether it's nonprofits, donors, businesses, our local government, come together to celebrate the generosity and vibrant community that makes up Alexandria. And then finally, now more than ever, having a clear call to action and sense of urgency is needed as we help to rally donors to act and support the work that you're doing and will continue to do in the future. Here are some potential changes that we're considering for Spring to Action. So please know that these are subject to change as we're taking your feedback into account and taking things day by day. So we are looking at the ability to open up giving earlier on the platform, possibly by extending early giving or looking at other possibilities. Also going to be leveraging social media and email channels to highlight the importance of Spring to Action and telling your stories. And we really encourage you to do the same. As you know, we have a marketing, social media, and storytelling webinar with Rheingold and the Alexandria Living magazine on Wednesday at 9:30. We'll make sure you have a link to register if you don't have that already. And then we also have something on our website called Impact Stories. And we are continuing to share these stories, and you have an opportunity to complete one. So it gets uploaded to our website, and that we could also use it for social media and marketing. We are going to be shifting kind of our messaging from our traditional Giving Day to one that speaks to the importance of our Giving Day, but also speaks to the urgency of what's going on in our community right now. Good news is that the Giving Day is already online. As you know, it's an online platform, and we are repurposing all of our printed materials to be into downloadable graphics that can be shared. This will be happening this week, and we'll make sure it's posted to the Spring to Action website and notify you when that's available. As you know, many of our sponsors and the business fundraisers that participate through Spring to Action, who are local companies, retailers, and restaurants, are also feeling the effects of the virus on their operations, on their team members, and may not be able to support Spring to Action in the ways they have in the past. We know that many of you have partnered with businesses to host different events, to provide discounts on the day of the event or leading up to it. And so we are cognizant of that. We're working to identify ways that we can continue to support them through this crisis. One idea we have is at least putting up a page where we used to have our events located, all the different things happening around town, just to let people coming to the site know about all of the different ways that they can support the businesses as well as the nonprofits. So we are still working through this and welcome any ideas that folks might have. And then finally, we know that prizes have historically been a key motivator in driving donations and are really part of the fun of Spring to Action. So we want to encourage giving. We also want to be mindful of the messages of competition, even as friendly as they are. So all this to say, we are still figuring out how we're going to structure the prizes. They might look a little bit different than they have in the past. Any changes that we make will be communicated as soon as they're made, as these decisions are made. And we're really looking for today's conversation to help inform some of these decisions that we're going to make. So now I'm going to take a second and turn it over to Celeste, and she is going to walk through the next couple slides.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to see you virtually. Again, my name is Celeste Flores, and I am working specifically with ACT on Spring to Action, and I am grateful for this call and for your time. I wanted to walk through, as Brandy has just kind of given out a layout of evolving changes that we might be making to the overall Spring to Action campaign. I do reiterate that we think this is a time this campaign is more important than ever, and your work is so important, and we are here to support you. So Brandon just went through what may be some overall campaign changes that we might be making to Spring to Action as a whole. But we also know that there is considerable changes that you might be making to your overall plans for participation. And we understand that, and we're mindful of that. And we know that your campaign and your participation in Spring to Action might look totally different than you might have envisioned it before the current situation. So what this slide provides is just I guess, a couple or quite a few examples of how you might consider some changes to your campaign. But before I go into each of these examples, I want to reiterate that we want to keep things simple. We know that you are on the front lines for many of your organizations, making some, this is on top of everything else you guys are doing. We know that you're addressing issues and needs right now, but as it relates to this campaign, we want to make sure that you have some ideas of how you might reposition and change your campaign, keeping it, again, simple. And this is a list, but this doesn't mean you're doing all of these things. Maybe there's a couple of these things that you might want to include as you're planning out what your day looks like. Again, this is intended to give you ideas. Some of you might have already been doing this or planning on doing this, but for those of you who haven't, when thinking about how you engage some ambassadors and or free agent fundraisers, again, those are individuals who are helping get the word out about your campaign on your behalf. And we have plenty of tools online that talk through that. We're happy to get online on a call and talk through things with you if you aren't already considering engaging a couple of people to help you with your getting the word out about your particular plans for Spring to Action. Again, as we're making changes to overall messaging for the overall campaign, we hope that you also will be making some adjustments to the messaging, and we think that the training on Wednesday will help with giving you some clear examples. We hope to get out to you some clear examples of how you could be messaging around this urgent time of need. We want to make sure your messaging is clear and transparent and honest, and again, urgent. This is the opportunity to do so. We know some of your campaigns included some in-person opportunities, and obviously that's not possible. So we are trying to give another reminder about how important visuals are going to be in your social campaign with your for Spring to Action, and using of photos. For those who understand or know how to do Facebook Live, maybe bringing some events or a version of the event online during their Spring to Action campaign, some quick videos and Facebook Live. And I put that in context, making it really simple and authentic. And we're talking iPhone videos, or, something that's quick and easy, no big productions here, but the more you can make it personal and people oriented in a way online, it would be really great to see if there's an opportunity to do that with Spring to Action. We have been on a couple of, we're trying to get some ideas from other communities on how other communities who are similarly like us having a Spring Giving Day coming up amid this current situation, and providing some idea sharing. And I did hear of an example that I'll give in a second, but when we talk about challenges and matches, we've always talked about that, and to have something like that for your Spring to Action campaign. And maybe you weren't going to do that or already doing it, and that might look different now. However, I did hear of an idea of a nonprofit in another community who had a giving day, and they repurposed an event sponsorship for an event that was coming up. They did not have, obviously the event had to be canceled, and they worked with their sponsor on repurposing that sponsorship to be a challenge or a match for the online giving day. So we offer that as an example. And then we know during this time, there are an opportunity for offline in-kind donations of gift cards and goods. Another example in a community that has a giving day, they were promoting and buying gift cards of from local businesses and donating them to our nonprofits, who then could use them for future events on a silent auction or for food for an event. Just another opportunity where people might be wanting to give an online donation, but they might also want to have an in-kind opportunity, and adding that to your campaign. So these are just some examples of changes that we are seeing other communities possibly doing in light of the current situation. So we wanted to move it over now to more of a group discussion and give you an opportunity to talk through some of your challenges, questions, thoughts. As Brandy, before we open that up though, I want to the group discussion, I want to reiterate, we know that things are changing. Please know that we are trying to be very mindful of all the stakeholders of this day. We have you, the nonprofits, the donors, the sponsors, the ambassadors, the local businesses that were wanting to get engaged as business fundraisers. That might look very different this year. So, but you're an important voice. We're looking forward to the discussion. So it is a little tricky now that we're online on a call. So I'd ask if everyone could, if you have keep yourself muted, but if you have a question, unmute yourself, and we'll try and manage the traffic a little bit. So we put these questions out to get the conversation started, but we've heard from some of you, but we'd love to hear from others on what your maybe some of your priorities, thoughts, concerns are about Spring to Action in general. So I'll open it up for comment.
I also wanted to say that if you'd like to submit your question via the chat, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little chat bubble, and you can type in your question as well. So we can take questions that way, and we would read the question and respond to it as well. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. This is Kylie Murray from Local Motion Project.
Hi,
Can you
Kylie.
hear me okay?
Yes, we can, please. Thank you so much. Yes.
Hey, so I'm curious about the decision to open up online giving earlier and what aspects are going into that decision. I personally love that idea, but just wondering about a little bit more about the conversation around that idea.
Yeah, Kylie, that's a great question. As you know, everyone, we do early giving typically 2 weeks before the giving day starts. So that would have been April 15th. And all gifts that happen during those 2 weeks of early giving count towards prize consideration and count towards your totals for Spring to Action on April 29th. There has been some conversation about potentially making early giving a week earlier, so potentially starting April 8th. We've also heard conversations from people or suggestions from people about could we move the date of Spring to Action up. So these are all things that we are considering. We don't have any answers as to what we can do yet. We obviously have to work with our platform, GiveGab, to make sure that we can have things ready if we move things around. We also want to make sure that you as the nonprofits are ready, ready to get the messaging out, ready with your profile pages, that type of thing. Celeste, is there anything else that I might be missing there?
Sorry, forgot how to unmute myself. I was talking to myself. No, I think you covered it, Brandy. I think that's all into consideration, and I do think that the idea of moving Giving Day up earlier is there are technical things that we have to take care of on our side. But I'd also like to know if you, as the nonprofits, everybody's in various stages of planning. Would you all be ready earlier to start?
Yes, I'm also seeing a question. Has there been any thought given to not opening the giving earlier and pushing the Giving Day back itself? I think the concerns are around many people not working right now, especially those in the hospitality industry. So there's concerns that people may be wary of donating and the donations will go down. That's a good question. And we have actually talked to a couple other Giving Days. I think most of them are continuing to move forward only because they know that nonprofits need support right now. I think there's some concern that the longer we wait, there's potential that people might not want to be giving. I don't know if that's the case. Again, this is something new. We have no idea. We've never been through something like this before. I think another example is we have talked to a lot of donors, as well as some of our donor advised fund holders who are really interested in looking at ways that they can support our nonprofits through Spring to Action. And so I don't think we would lean towards pushing things back, but we are open again to some of the feedback that you all have. I see a couple comments coming in about being very pro early giving and putting that up sooner. It sounds like there's some groups that have lost revenue as a result of not being able to have different types of performances or events, and being able to have Spring to Action earlier would help fill that gap. I see a question here about lawn signs. We have kind of held off on moving forward with any printing right now as we're trying to figure out what our next steps will be. So we'll be back in touch with what printed materials, if any, will be available. But sorry, I keep taking over and I want people to be able to talk and give their comments or questions. So just reading off things from the chat. But if you have thoughts on early giving, opening up giving earlier or other concerns, if you want to chime in, we'd love to hear you.
If we, so we have somebody on here who says, voting to keep the date as is, but it might be challenging given the current situation. Are there any other thoughts around that?
Hi, this is Tisha Garrett, and I think my question, or I think I am anti-early giving. I'm still weighing that that choice or that thought, but it just feels as though the great part about Spring to Action is that it's a very concentrated time when we can catch people's attention. It feels like having a long lead up doesn't necessarily keep that sort of like, we've got a 48-hour time frame and we're really trying to raise money. So it feels like we'd be losing kind of the magic of the time. And then my second question, which is a question, not a comment, is that does early giving, does it change the timeline in which the funds hit your account? Because I think for folks who are concerned about, missing revenue, we're already talking about starting at April 29th. So does that mean that, May 1st, you'd have access to that money? It typically feels like it's a little longer turnaround. So I'll stop there.
Sure, that is a great question. So changing the timeline, if we incorporate early giving earlier, you start to receive funds, I think within 2 to 3, maybe 3 to 5 business days, once the funds are processed through the site. So, you know, you could receive your early giving. If we started at April 15th, you'd probably get something into your account by April 19th or April 20th. It is different if you are fiscally sponsored. So there's some organizations that have fiscal sponsorship through ACT. And so if that is the case, there is a delay in receiving some of the funds, but we can talk about that offline.
Hi, it's Kylie again. I guess my question is, I mean, we've always had the 2-week early giving window. I'm not sure what difference an extra week makes as far as like what the downside of that is. I mean, I do understand and feel for the groups that might not be ready to start in that 3-week window, but there are, I mean,
Getting bombarded.
like, yeah, so I'm just, I guess my question is 2 weeks versus 3 weeks. You know, it's all early giving, and it seems like in previous years, other groups really push the early giving and other groups don't. Like, it just gives people the flexibility to do what they need in this time, I guess.
Thank you for that comment. Okay, I see another comment about in favor of moving early giving up and or moving up the date of Spring to Action. Also, someone who has lost programming revenue and need to start raising money as soon as possible. I can definitely understand that. And I just want to get back to Tisha's question about the concentrated time and losing the magic of the Spring to Action time. We definitely understand that. Yes, we have created this event. You know, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, and love the spirit of the day and the competition and all the fun things that happen that day, and the anticipation of leading up to it. We want to try to maintain that as well as we can, knowing that we might have to change things around a little bit just in this difficult time right now. But we are trying to think through that. Yes, I also just saw a comment. Is anyone listening to Governor Northam? Yes, apparently they're announcing something at the same time we're having our call. So I have not been following that. But yes, it looks like we will stay tuned for what might be happening in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay, I see someone says that schools are now closed through the rest of the year. I think there's going to be screams of panic for everybody there. Okay, so let's continue our conversation about Spring to Action. What are some of the things that would be helpful for you? What are some things that we as ACT can do to make sure that we are supporting you in this? I see a comment about the worry about extending early giving time as people losing interest, getting tired of being asked, and the message is likely to get lost amidst the other news right now. I definitely understand that. Okay, we have comments around people's attention regardless, still being on the virus, whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks of giving, and the recommendation for keeping it at 2 weeks. We have someone sharing about how much the competition piece of Spring to Action makes sense right now, and may not end up doing free agent fundraisers, highlighting that all of us are in this together right now. Yeah, so I think one of the goals of free agent fundraisers, whether it's part of the competition or not part of your internal competition, is that it is another chance for you to be sharing, or your message being shared with other populations, so other networks. For those of you who don't know what free agent fundraisers are, these are individuals that raise money on behalf of the organization that they care about. It doesn't always have to be individuals, it could be a team. So for example, I know Alexandria Tutoring Consortium uses the schools. So they might have a Morey team versus a Jefferson Houston team versus another school team. And those volunteers that work at those schools reach out to their friends, neighbors, family. They do it through social media, through emails, and really help to extend the reach of the organization to reach other individuals who might not know about the organization. So I would definitely say now is a great time to continue to use your free agent fundraisers because they are some of your best ambassadors. I think they're going to really be able to tell compelling stories about why the work that you're doing is so important to the community. Yes, I see some comments about the competition piece and that being really careful about not sending any negative messages about trying to beat other people or compete against each other. We're looking at different ways to potentially repurpose some of the prizes that we have. As you know, we do things like power hours or random prizes. So, I mean, if other people have ideas of different ways that we can incentivize giving, we would love to hear those ideas too.
And I think also for those who do use free agent fundraisers, I know there's a competitive element between the fundraisers as well. And maybe that's, you know, us just, or, you know, maybe having to I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. We actually, our message to our fundraisers changes a little bit in the messaging that they use or the messaging that we provide them so that it does turn them more into ambassadors and I guess competitive fundraisers, if you will. I know that every nonprofit uses free agent fundraisers in different ways and motivates them in different ways. So definitely be mindful of that as well.
And yes, thank you, Judy. We are having that upcoming webinar on Wednesday where we're going to have Reingold and Alexandria Living Magazine talk about telling stories and how you use social media as well as other channels like email and written format to get the word out about the impact your organization is making. We're also going to have them talk about how to do that in a way that also incorporates the sense of urgency that is needed right now. We're also working with our messaging team to provide you with kind of talking points or at least a blurb that you can share with your donors, with your board members, with your stakeholders about why Spring to Action is important right now. And so for those of you who are worried about how you're going to message that, we will share some of that messaging so that we can have a consistent voice in our community about that. I also want to share that if there are organizations out there that feel like this is not the right time for them to be participating in Spring to Action, whether they have other things at the forefront and they're doing the direct service and can't put their fundraising campaign together, or they don't feel comfortable asking their donors or whatever it is, whatever the issue is, you don't have to participate. And so I know that we did a registration fee. We would happily refund the registration fee for you. We want to support you in any way that we can. And we want you to be able to do what's best for your organization.
Absolutely. Is there anybody out there who might already be thinking about what they're changing for their plans or making different kinds of plans for their Spring to Action campaign? Any ideas? I mean, I know we shared some random ideas, but would love it if there's something that you feel like you'd like to share with the group.
Yeah, I see a question about a first timer and a first time organization participating. And she wants to know, is there a way to learn all the organizations that participate so they can determine how to fit it around, but not in competition with nonprofits that have participated in the past? There is, so you can actually see a list of all the participating organizations on the website. So if you go to springtoaction.org, you scroll down to, I think, probably the middle of the page, and you'll see a link that says view all the nonprofits that are participating. And then you can see a list of them listed alphabetically. But I'm also happy to put you in touch with potential organizations that might be similar to yours or similar in size. And if there are other nonprofits out there who are, you're all experts now, the ones who've already participated at least a year, might be willing to talk to a first timer about their experience, also let us know, and we'd love to put you in touch. I think there's a lot that we can learn from one another.
Is there any questions that you're getting or just commentary from any other key stakeholders in your kind of orbit? Is it, are you hearing anything from your donors? We want to make sure that we're addressing any other concerns while we have you on the phone, and we can be helpful to mitigate this, because we are receiving questions on our own of, from our different stakeholders, about Spring to Action, the timing, and, what is the plan. And we know everything's evolving, but we'd love to hear if there's any other questions out there, thoughts out there, misconceptions, anything that we can help talk through.
I think what I've heard, this is Tisha again, what people have asked, are we actually having Spring to Action? And what I've just been saying is, yeah, we're moving ahead. And so that's what I have heard. And that's not really from our donors, that's from the rest of my board, our volunteers. So I think having this call and knowing that you all are thinking creatively about how we can work it around in this time period is good information to take back.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a question around any insight from donors on how best to approach this under the circumstances. Any ideas as to what they believe may work best for all of us? I'm trying to, I don't know if I understand the second part of the question. Maybe any ideas that we might have that would work for you? I think it's important to communicate with your donors. I'm not sure how many of you are talking to your donors right now. And if you've been in conversation with them, I mean, if anybody wants to share if they've been having conversations with donors, I can tell you that, and most of you probably know that we as ACT are raising money for the ACT Now COVID-19 Response Fund. This is money that does not go to ACT. It goes straight out the door in grants to fund organizations that are providing immediate emergency relief. And we have been just in awe of the number of donors who have been giving. I think there are probably over 300 who have given, and many of them are folks that we have never interacted with before. And so I think people in our community are looking for ways to support the work of nonprofits right now. Sorry, Celeste, did I cut you off?
No, you were cut off a little bit. And I don't know if it was only me, but I missed a little bit of the middle of what you were talking about.
Okay, shoot, now I can't remember what I said.
No, we were just talking about what our response was, but to echo what you were saying about donors interested, or community members interested in general of being supportive of our nonprofit communities. I from a messaging standpoint to your donors, again, I don't think any of us have really been in this kind of situation before, but I think what will resonate is to be just really clear about your ask, really transparent and honest and urgent, and them understanding really the need for their donation, or if it's for a particular project or a particular program, get really more definitive about, if you can, if it's just general operating dollars, period. Yes, that's all, that's fine too, but just being really clear and honest. I think just honesty is the best policy right now, and that is what I think you just need to make clear to your donors, or just in general in your communications about this.
Yes, I echo that too. That's something that we talked about on a call that we had with GiveGab. And I also want to say around general operating support, I know that In the past, we've kind of focused on Spring to Action really being kind of project centered or something specific. I think one thing we're realizing right now is that nonprofits need support for their general operations. If they don't have general operations, they can't do the amazing work that they do. And so we are trying to do our role in speaking with donors to highlight the importance of that. One of the ways that we're doing that is encouraging, if we've given a grant to an organization and it was for a specific project, we want to give them the freedom to free up those funds to use them for general operating or whatever is most needed for the organization. I think at this time, donors will understand that as well as some of your other funders. So yeah, that's what I have to say about general operating.
Absolutely. And I think other approaches to donors, I mean, you guys need funding for general operations for particular programs. And then if there is an opportunity for people to give an in-kind and or specific items, adding that to your campaign, I think everybody cash donations is definitely what we need, but I think we also have to be understanding that there might be some donors who want to give and support and may not be in a financial situation to do that, but may want to give an item. I'm not saying this works for everybody, but if there is an opportunity, maybe adding that to your campaign is an opportunity.
Okay. You guys have given us a lot to think about. Thank you for sharing those questions. Thank you for sharing your feedback. If you have more, I want to make sure that you know that you can always email or you can call with any comments or concerns. We are going to take this information back, share it with our board and staff as we consider potential changes to Spring to Action. Again, like we said, everything is kind of happening so rapidly. And so we are trying to be in communication about any changes. So stay tuned. We will be in touch with you. And then just our last thing, we want to just kind of leave you with this. We know that you have a lot on your plates right now. So just a few reminders to say that we're in this together and we know that we're better together. This is really an opportunity for us to do some new things. I know we're all learning new things. I'm learning how to do Zoom. I'm figuring out these things and really having to be creative in our problem solving and our solutions. And so I think we're going to walk away having a lot more knowledge. Know that donors are ready to help. Like I said, we've seen an outpouring in the ACT Now Response Fund and donor advised funds giving, as well as other individuals asking about Spring to Action, making sure that we're still moving forward in ways that they can help. The Alexandria community needs you more than ever, and we are really grateful for you, and we are here for you. So again, if there's anything that we can do, if you just need someone to talk to and troubleshoot and problem solve, we're here. We're so grateful, again, for everything that you're doing. And yeah, there's my contact information if you need it. And we will be back in touch. And everyone stay safe out there. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.